Okay, so this is a demonstration of the asset bundle building from Unity. So if you have the asset bundle script, either the original one or my improved one, you should be able to build asset bundles from Unity. I'm going to go to my assets here. And okay, so we can see that I have already a bunch of assets set up. I'm not going to go into the details of how to make those assets. There's videos on how to do that. So what I like to do, it's not necessary because the script does it for me, but I like to go in before doing a build and going into the asset bundles folder here and just deleting the subfolders. What that does for me is it ensures that when I do a build, that whatever assets I see there are new ones. I know that it's not the old ones because I deleted them. Now, like I said, the script actually does that for you, so you shouldn't need to do that, but if I don't want to rely on the script to delete that, this way I can make sure. Okay, so with that done, I can now right-click and do build asset bundles. Now we can see that here, this is the build process. This pops up. If this does not pop up, you know that the Unity build process did not fire off. Okay, depending on how fast your computer is, this can take a little while, or it might be pretty quick. It also depends on how many different assets you have in your project. The more assets you have, the longer it's going to take. So if you're working on a lot of assets, it's a good idea to break it up into separate projects, because then during the build phase, you're only building a couple of assets instead of, let's say, a dozen. Now, what I was saying earlier about Unity is that Unity does not automatically refresh when files change until you step out of Unity and come back in. So for example, you can see that in the asset bundles folder here, there is a bunch of assets here that were created, but it doesn't look like it's in the hierarchy of my improved scripts. But that's actually not the case. If I right-click here and go show folder, you can see that this does not match what we saw before. We saw all the assets here in the root. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, so you can see that here there are no assets in the root. This is all just the meta files. And you can see that the assets were actually created here. That wasn't what was showing in Unity, but now once I switch back to Unity, you can see it immediately updates, and now that hierarchy is there. So that's something to take into consideration. If you are looking purely from a Unity standpoint, it might look like, oh, my script for building actually failed. It doesn't look like the assets were created. They were. Unity just didn't reflect that, so that's why, again, I recommend when you're building, just have your folder where you're creating your minis open outside of Talespire, and use that to check whether or not your assets were built or not. So that's how you can confirm that they were actually built or not. If you are having build problems, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, again, it's probably not the script, because the script, beyond firing off the build process, which is like a one-liner, it just does the rearranging of the hierarchy. So if the improved script fails, it would be somewhere in the, arranging the hierarchy, and then you should at least see your assets in like the root of asset bundles or something like that. So if you are having build issues, and especially if it works sometimes and doesn't work other times, I would look at your disk space. If you have run out of disk space, then obviously you're going to have problems building, and when you exit out of the Unity project, it might actually delete some temporary files, so the next time you come in, you might be able to pull off another build, but then it'll again stop building. If you are getting assets that build in Unity but don't work in Talespire, the most common error for that is that you're using the wrong version of Unity. You cannot use the latest version of Unity. You have to use a version of Unity that Talespire is built on or earlier, because the newer versions of Unity packages have additional features that the older version does not support, and it will cause problems with your assets. So if you want to know where the actual build script is, it's under Assets Editor. There is a script file there. And if we look at this, this is just a class here. It says to attach it into the main menu as build asset bundle. And then this is what it executes. The original code was this. So this basically just says to Unity, build the assets. This is why I was saying adding consoles to try to figure out what's going on in your build steps would be difficult, because it's a one-liner of code. So if your build is failing halfway through the build, you have to hope that the build process sends some console logs to the Unity console to figure out what's going on, because basically you can't really add any console logs to the script here except for starting build process and ending build process. The additional code here, this is basically for getting rid of that local content folder, and then this is for rearranging the hierarchy afterwards to create the hierarchy, which is basically the improved script. Like I said, it does the exact same thing as the original script, except it just rearranges the assets afterwards to make them easy to copy over to Talespire. But that's it. So that is that. Now, when you build, you may also get an error message down here. You may get an error message down here. If the message is about manifest files, you can ignore those. It's only a warning, and as part of that rearranging hierarchy, because I don't go and move all the manifest files with it, it complains about that, but that's okay. If you get red line down here, that would be an error message, and then you should pay attention to that. You can also get more information by going to the Unity console. So you can see same thing. I've got a bunch of warnings here related to manifest. They're warnings only, so I can safely ignore those. So if your build is failing, do check the console to see if that gives you any ideas as to why that might be. And that's pretty well it.